A confession. Written on the winter solstice 1889. I have been eating my brother for 5 years, and tonight I will finish him. Let me say it plainly before you dismiss this as the ravings of a madman, before you close this document in disgust and horror. I have been consuming my brother Thomas, not in metaphor, not in symbol, but literally, physically, methodically. 1 meal per winter for 5 years. Preserved portions of his flesh carefully rationed, deliberately savoured, and tonight, on this longest night of the year, I will eat the final piece, his heart. You recoil. I see it. I feel your revulsion through the page itself, as though the words themselves carry contamination. You think me a monster, a cannibal, a creature so depraved that I have forfeited my right to be called human. But you do not understand, you cannot understand, not yet. Not until I explain what happened in the woods 5 years ago. Not until I tell you what I discovered when I began eating Thomas. Not until you comprehend that this was not murder, not madness, not depravity, but something else entirely. Something that began as accident and necessity and transformed into revelation. My name is William Thorne. I am 38 years old. I live alone in the house where Thomas and I were raised, where our father beat us both with methodical precision, where our mother died when I was 7 and Thomas was 5, where 2 brothers learned to survive by protecting each other from a man who saw his sons as disappointments, as failures, as reflections of his own inadequacy made flesh. Thomas died on December 21st, 1884, 5 years ago tonight. The winter solstice, the longest night, the night when darkness holds dominion over light and the cold seeps into your bones no matter how close you huddle to the fire. We were hunting, deep in the forest, miles from any road. A cabin we had used since boyhood, inherited from our father along with his contempt and his violence, and his absolute certainty that we would never amount to anything. Thomas died in the woods, and I was there when it happened. The authorities believe it was an accident, a hunting mishap, a tragic confluence of circumstances, bad weather, poor visibility, rifle that discharged unexpectedly. They accepted my account without question. 2 brothers hunting together, 1 brother dead, the surviving brother clearly devastated by grief and guilt. They were not wrong about the grief or the guilt, but they were wrong about the accident. Thomas did not die by accident, and I did not kill him, but I let him die. Stood watching while he bled out in the snow, made no attempt to save him, made no attempt to reach help in time. I watched my brother die. And then I did something worse. I ate him, not immediately, not in some frenzy of madness or starvation, but deliberately, methodically, over 5 years, 1 meal per winter, always on the solstice, always in the cabin where he died. And each time I consumed a portion of Thomas, I discovered something impossible. Something that changed everything I understood about flesh and memory and the bonds between brothers. When I eat Thomas, I experience his memories. Not my memories of him, his memories, his thoughts, his perspectives, his internal life that I never knew existed. I see myself through his eyes, and what I see changes everything. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how this began. Let me explain what happened in that cabin 5 years ago. Let me make you understand why tonight, when I consume Thomas's heart, I will finally learn the truth he has been showing me piece by piece, memory by memory, meal by meal. The truth about what really happened, about who my brother was, about what he wanted me to do. Welcome to Fright Club. Here we honour the old masters, Poe, Jackson, the writers who knew that the deepest horror comes from within. We craft tales in their tradition, psychological, visceral, unflinching, subscribe for more Gothic horror, comment where you're watching from. Now, let me tell you how my brother died. December 21st, 1884, the winter solstice. Thomas and I had driven to the cabin that morning as we did every year, our annual hunting trip, a tradition that stretched back to boyhood, back to when Father would take us into the woods and teach us to track and shoot and survive. Father had been dead for 3 years by then. Heart failure, the doctor said. I said nothing at the funeral, neither did Thomas. We buried him and inherited his house and his modest savings and his rifles and the cabin in the woods. And we continued the hunting trips because they were ours now, no longer his. Because in the woods, away from the town and the people who remembered our father and his reputation, Thomas and I could be ourselves. Except I did not know who Thomas was, not really, not until I began eating him. We arrived at the cabin near noon. The snow was already falling, not heavily but steadily, the kind of snow that builds slowly, that you do not notice accumulating until suddenly the world is white and the roads are impassable and you are trapped until the plows come through. Might be stuck here a few days, Thomas said, unloading supplies from the truck. Radio says the storm's getting worse. I did not mind. The cabin was well stocked. We had food, firewood, each other's company. Thomas and I had always been closer than most brothers. When you grow up in a house where your father's fists are the primary form of communication, you learn to rely on each other, to protect each other, to present a united front against the violence that waits behind every door. And I was the older brother, the protector, the one who took the worst of father's rage so Thomas would not have to. I was bigger, stronger, better able to absorb the blows, or so I thought. But Thomas's memories would later show me I was wrong, show me that Thomas took his own beatings, that he protected me as much as I protected him, that our relationship was not what I believed it to be. But I am getting ahead of myself again. Let me stay with that day, with what happened. We hunted in the afternoon. The snow made tracking easy, fresh deer prints leading through the trees. We followed them for perhaps 2 hours, moving quietly, communicating with hand signals the way Father had taught us. Thomas was a better hunter than I was, more patient, more observant. He could read the forest in ways I never could anticipate where the deer would go, could move without making sound. I was clumsy by comparison, too eager, too loud, too obvious. We found the deer near dusk, a large buck, 8 points, beautiful. Thomas raised his rifle, sighted carefully. I stood beside him, my own rifle ready in case he missed. He fired. The shot echoed through the trees. The deer stumbled, fell. We approached carefully. The deer was still alive, thrashing weakly in the snow. Thomas chambered another round to finish it, and that is when it happened. Not an accident, not a discharge, not a mistake. Thomas turned, looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Something that looked like certainty, like decision, like a man who had made up his mind about something important and was about to act on it. He raised the rifle, pointed it at his own chest. "Thomas, what are you? Don't stop me," he said. His voice was calm, too calm, the voice of someone who has thought through every possibility and arrived at the only logical conclusion. "Please, William, don't stop me, just let it happen. Put the rifle down, whatever you're thinking." "I've been thinking about this for years, about how to do it, about when." He kept the rifle pointed at his chest. "It has to be here, in the woods, where Father can't reach us, where it's just you and me." "Father's dead, Thomas. He's been dead for..." "I know, but he's still here." Thomas tapped his temple with his free hand. "Still in here. Still telling me what I am. what I'll always be, and I can't carry him anymore, William. I'm tired, so tired. I should have moved, should have grabbed the rifle, should have tackled him, wrestled the weapon away, stopped what was about to happen. But I did not move, because part of me understood. Part of me knew exactly what Thomas meant. The weight of father. The way he lived in our minds long after his body was buried. The way his voice never stopped telling us we were worthless. Failures. Disappointments. Thomas, I said, please, don't do this. We can get help. I don't want help. I want to stop. He pressed the rifle barrel against his chest. And I want you to do something for me. After. Something important. Anything. Just put the rifle down and I'll eat me. The words hung in the cold air between us. What? Eat me. My body. Don't let it rot in the ground like father. Don't let the worms have me. Keep me. Preserve me. And when you're ready, when you need to understand, eat me, please. That's insane. I'm not going to. You will, because you're all going to be trapped here. The storm's getting worse. You won't be able to get my body out. You'll be stuck here for days, maybe a week, and you'll have to survive, and the only meat you'll have is... He pulled the trigger. The shot was louder than the first one, louder than anything I'd ever heard. It echoed and echoed and echoed until the whole forest was screaming. Thomas fell back into the snow. The rifle dropped beside him. Blood spread across his chest in a widening circle, dark against the white. I stood frozen, watching, unable to process what had just happened. Thomas looked up at me. He was still alive. The shot had missed his heart, deliberately, I would later realize. He had positioned the rifle carefully to cause a mortal wound, but not immediate death, to give himself time to speak. Don't, he coughed, blood flecking his lips. Don't let it be wasted. Promise me. Thomas, hold on, I can... Promise me. His hand reached for mine, gripped with surprising strength. Promise you'll keep me. Promise you'll understand. Promise. He died before finishing the sentence. His hand went slack in mine. His eyes stayed open, staring at the darkening sky. And I was alone in the woods with my brother's corpse and the snow falling heavier and heavier, and the terrible understanding that Thomas had planned this, had chosen this, had given himself to me deliberately. The storm hit that night. By morning there were 3 feet of snow. The roads were impassable. I was trapped in the cabin with Thomas's body and no way to leave and no way to contact help. I lasted 4 days before I cut the first piece. I tell you now with absolute clarity and no attempt at self-deception, I did not eat Thomas because I was starving. The cabin had food. Canned goods, dried meat, flour. I could have survived 2 weeks without touching him. I ate Thomas because he asked me to, because his last words kept echoing in my mind, because I needed to understand what he meant, why he wanted this, what he thought I would discover, and because some part of me, some deep, terrible part that I had never acknowledged, was curious. On the 4th night, I brought Thomas's body inside from where I had laid it in the snow. The cold had preserved it perfectly, frozen, solid, no decay. Just Thomas, eternal and unchanging. I laid him on the table. The same table where we had eaten meals together for 20 years. Where we had played cards. Where we had sat in companionable silence on winter nights. And I took father's hunting knife, the blade still sharp after all these years, and I cut into my brother's thigh. The flesh resisted at first. Frozen meat is difficult to cut. The knife skipped across the surface, leaving white scratches in the skin. I had to press harder, much harder. The blade finally penetrated with a sound like cutting frozen wood. A crack, a split, a giving way. The muscle beneath was deep red, almost purple, the colour of wine, of blood that had settled and frozen. I cut a piece approximately 3 inches long and 2 inches wide, thicker than I intended. The knife had gotten away from me. I held the piece of Thomas in my hand. It was heavier than I expected, denser. The flesh had the consistency of frozen rubber, firm, unyielding. Cold enough to burn my palm. This was my brother. This piece of meat in my hand was Thomas, had been part of him, had moved when he moved, had flexed when he walked, had felt the warmth of blood flowing through it when his heart beat. I should have stopped then, should have put it back, should have done anything except what I did next. I brought it to the fire, placed it in the cast iron skillet, added salt, nothing else. I wanted to taste Thomas, not seasonings, not butter, just him. The flesh began to thaw immediately. Blood ran from it, dark, thick, almost black. The smell rose with the steam. Metallic, rich, not unpleasant like venison, but sweeter, more complex. As it cooked, the meat changed colour. The purple-red faded to grey-brown. The texture transformed from frozen solidity to something more yielding, more familiar, more like food. I watched it cook for perhaps 15 minutes, turning it occasionally, listening to the sizzle, watching the juices run, preparing myself for what I was about to do. When it was ready, when the flesh was cooked through, no pink remaining, I lifted it from the skillet with my fingers. It was hot, almost too hot to hold. I juggled it from hand to hand, blowing on it, waiting for it to cool enough to eat. And then I bit into my brother. The texture was wrong immediately. Too dense, too chewy. The fibres resisted my teeth, required real effort to tear. I had to work at it, had to gnaw, had to use my molars to grind the flesh into pieces small enough to swallow. The taste was... I struggle to describe it. Gamey, yes, but more than that. There was a sweetness underneath the meat flavour, and something else. Something that tasted like copper and salt, and something I had no name for. The taste of Thomas, the flavour of my brother's body reduced to its chemical components, absorbed by my tongue. I chewed, and chewed, and chewed. The flesh would not break down properly, would not become soft. It remained tough, stringy, resistant. I chewed until my jaw ached, until saliva mixed with the meat created a paste in my mouth that I finally, desperately forced myself to swallow. It went down hard, stuck in my throat. I had to drink water to wash it down, had to force it, had to concentrate on the mechanics of swallowing because every instinct screamed at me to spit it out, to reject it, to expel this wrongness from my body. But I kept it down, swallowed, felt it descend into my stomach, felt the weight of it settle there, felt Thomas inside me now, part of me, absorbed. I sat by the fire, waited, wondered if anything would happen, or if Thomas's final request had been the delusion of a dying mind. And then the memories came, not gradually, not gently so, but all at once, slamming into my consciousness with physical force. I gasped, doubled over, clutched my head as though I could hold my skull together against the pressure building inside it. And I saw, no, I experienced. I became Thomas for a moment. Thomas at age 7, hiding in the closet while father beat me in the next room, my cries cutting through the walls, Thomas's small hands pressed against his ears trying to block the sound, his whole body shaking, wanting desperately to help but too small, too weak, too terrified of what father would do if he intervened, hating himself, hating his cowardice, promising himself that someday he would be strong enough, that he would protect me the way I protected him, that he would not let me suffer alone. The memory released me. I fell forward, gasping, my forehead pressed against the cabin floor. Sweat poured from my body despite the cold, my heart hammered. My hand shook. That was not my memory. That was Thomas's memory. I had never known he was in the closet that night, had never known he heard, had never known the promise he made to himself, but I knew it now, knew it with absolute certainty, knew it because I had experienced it, had been Thomas in that moment, had felt his fear and his shame and his desperate love. I remained on the floor for perhaps an hour. Other memories came, fragmentary, brief, but vivid. Thomas at 12, the intercepting father in the barn when father came looking for me, drunk and violent. Taking the beating meant for me. 3 days with bruised ribs, telling me he had fallen. I believed him then, but the memory showed me the truth, showed me Thomas stepping deliberately into father's path, choosing the pain, choosing to protect me. Thomas at 16, watching me with an expression I had never noticed when I was living it. Something complex in his eyes. Something that looked like love but felt like more than brotherly affection. I could feel what he felt, the complicated tangle of admiration and longing and fierce protective devotion. Thomas at 25, beginning to understand something about himself. Something he could never say. Something that terrified him. The memories faded. I was alone again. Just William. Just myself. But changed. Because now I carried Thomas's perspective. His thoughts, his hidden life. I had eaten my brother, and he had given me his memories in return. When the storm cleared a week later, I took most of Thomas's body with me. Told the authorities I'd buried him in the woods, though out the ground was too frozen to bring him back. That we could retrieve the body in spring. They accepted this. Arranged a funeral with an empty casket. Spoke words over nothing. Closed the case as accidental death. And I took Thomas home, butchered him properly in my basement, wrapped the portions individually, stored them in the freezer in the garage where no one would think to look. I counted the pieces, 27 portions. Enough for 1 meal per year for 27 years if I was careful. But I decided on a different schedule. 1 meal per winter, only on the solstice, only in the cabin where he died. A ritual, a remembrance, and a slow revelation. And each year I received more of Thomas, more memories, more truth, more of who he really was. Year 2 I ate from his shoulder, received memories of adolescence, of Thomas discovering he loved men, not women, of his terror at this realization, of knowing father would kill him if he ever found out, of watching me date girls and feeling something complex, happy for me but also grieving for the life he could never have. The loneliness was crushing. I felt it as he felt it, the isolation, the constant performance, the exhaustion of pretending to be something you are not. Year 3 I ate from his ribs. The meat near the bone is richer, fattier, more flavour. I chewed slowly and tasted 5 years of Thomas's young adulthood, working his job at the mill, smiling at the men who made jokes about queers, laughing along, dying inside with every laugh, coming home to our house, to me, finding small comfort in our evenings together, even though I never knew what it meant to him, what my presence meant, how desperately he needed me without being able to say why. Year 4 I ate from his hand. The meat there is delicate, precise, like the memories it contained. Memories of Thomas planning his death, not from despair, not from hopelessness, but from a strange kind of logic. He believed death was transformation, that by being consumed, he could finally communicate what he could never say while alive, that through flesh, through the literal absorption of his body into mine, he could make me understand who he was, what he felt, how completely he had loved me. Last year, year 5, I ate from his side. the meat where the bullet had entered. The flesh was damaged, torn, different in texture from the other portions, and the memories were different too. More recent, more focused, more urgent. I saw Thomas 1 week before his death sitting at this same table in this same cabin, writing letters he would never send, letters to me. I read them through his eyes as he wrote them, explaining everything, explaining that he loved me, not as brothers love, but completely, entirely, in ways that terrified him and sustained him and would ultimately kill him, not because the love was destructive, but because keeping it secret was impossible to bear any longer. That he had loved me since childhood, that every act of protection, every moment of care, every sacrifice had been motivated by this love he could never speak, that he was tired of hiding, tired of pretending, tired of living a half-life where the most important truth about him remained forever unspoken, that he was giving himself to me literally because he had always belonged to me metaphorically. That consumption was the ultimate intimacy, that by eating him, I would finally know him completely, would carry him with me forever, would become, in a sense, one with him. I wept after that 5th meal, wept for Thomas, for the brother I thought I knew, but never truly understood, for the love that went unspoken for 33 years, for the loneliness he endured in silence, and I understood. One piece remained, his heart. I saved it deliberately, followed Thomas's own logic. The heart is the center, the core, the seat of emotion and life, and whatever essential self remains after the body fails. If Thomas's memories transfer through consumption, if eating his flesh truly conveys his consciousness, then eating his heart will show me everything. The complete picture, the final revelation, the answer to the question I have been asking with each meal. Why did you do this, Thomas? What did you want me to understand? Tonight I will know. December 21st, 1889, 1100 p.m. I am in the cabin now. The same room, the same table, the heart sits before me, preserved in ice, thawing slowly in the warm air near the fire. It is larger than I expected, substantial. The muscle that kept Thomas alive for 33 years, that beat with love I never recognized, with pain I never saw, with hope I never understood. Over the past 5 years, I have noticed changes in myself, physical changes that I attributed to age or imagination, but which I now understand are something else. My teeth have become sharper, not dramatically, not obviously, but when I run my tongue over them, I can feel the difference. The canines are more pronounced. The molars have edges they did not have before, as though my body is adapting to its diet, as though 5 years of consuming Thomas has altered me at some fundamental level, and I taste him sometimes, between meals, in quiet moments, a copper-sweet flavour that rises from my throat without warning, the ghost of Thomas in my mouth, a reminder that he is inside me, part of me, changing me. My fingers have become more sensitive too. I can feel textures I never noticed before, the grain of wood, the weave of fabric, the subtle variations in my own skin, as though Thomas's more delicate hands have somehow influenced mine, as though his way of touching the world has been absorbed along with his flesh. These changes should terrify me, should mark me as something other than human, something monstrous. But they do not terrify me, they comfort me, because they mean Thomas is still here, still present, still affecting the world through the vessel of my body. The heart is nearly thawed now. I can see the chambers, the ventricles, the arteries, the structures that made Thomas's life possible, that pumped blood to every part of him, that sustained the body I have spent 5 years consuming. 11:30 p.m. I have been staring at the heart for half an hour, unable to begin, unable to take this final step, because once I eat the heart, Thomas will be gone, completely consumed. There will be no more meals, no more revelations, no more gradual understanding. This is the end, and I am not ready for it to end. But Thomas planned this, wanted this, died for this, and I owe him the completion of what he started. I pick up the knife. 11:45 p.m. The heart is dense, resistant, more muscle than any other part of Thomas. It requires real effort to cut. The knife barely penetrates at first. I have to saw back and forth, applying pressure, forcing the blade through tissue that spent 33 years learning to be strong. I am cutting the heart into smaller pieces. It seems wrong to eat it whole. Wrong to swallow this essential part of Thomas in one gulp. He deserves more care than that, more ceremony. Each piece I cut reveals the heart's interior, the chambers where blood pooled, the valves that opened and closed, the structures that kept Thomas alive until he chose to stop being alive. I think about that choice, the rifle against his chest, the deliberate positioning, the careful planning to ensure mortal injury but not immediate death. The seconds he had to look at me and speak those final words. This heart beat faster in that moment. I know it did. Fear and determination and love all combining to drive the rhythm higher. This heart beat with full awareness that it was about to stop. That Thomas was choosing silence, choosing stillness, choosing death. And this heartbeat knowing that someday, 5 years later, on this night, I would consume it, would take its strength into myself, would complete the transformation Thomas planned. 11:55 p.m. The heart is prepared, cut into 8 pieces, lying on the plate, still red inside despite 5 years of freezing, still recognizably what it was, still Thomas. I place the first piece in the skillet. It cooks differently than the other portions, tougher, more resistant to heat. The muscle fibers contract as they cook, the piece curling up on itself as though trying to return to the shape it held in Thomas's chest. The smell is different too, richer, more metallic, more intensely Thomas than any other part I have consumed. I eat the first piece. It is tougher than anything I have eaten before. My teeth struggle with it. My jaw aches from the effort of chewing. The muscle will not yield, will not soften. I chew and chew and chew until finally I can swallow. And the memories explode. Not individual memories this time, not fragments, but everything. Thomas's entire life pouring into my consciousness at once. I see it all. Thomas as an infant, before memory, before thought, just sensation and need, and the comfort of being held. Thomas as a toddler, learning to walk, falling, getting up, trying again, determined even then. Thomas at 5, watching mother die, not understanding, just knowing that something essential had been taken from the world. Thomas at 7 in the closet, hearing me scream, promising himself forever. Thomas at 10 taking his first beating for me, learning that love means sacrifice. Thomas at 14 understanding something about himself, something that could never be spoken, something that would shape every decision for the rest of his life. Thomas at 20 sitting across from me at dinner, watching me talk about the girl I was dating, feeling his heart break and mend simultaneously, loving me and grieving for himself in the same breath. Thomas at 28, beginning to plan, writing in his journal. The only way William will understand is if I give him access to my thoughts directly. Words have failed me 1,000 times, but flesh will not fail. Flesh will convey what words cannot. Thomas at 32, testing the angle of the rifle against his chest, measuring, calculating, ensuring the shot would be mortal but not instantaneously fatal, ensuring he would have time to speak, time to explain, time to see my face one last time. Thomas at 33 in the woods, raising the rifle, looking at me with love and certainty, thinking, this is my gift. This is how I tell him. This is how I make him understand that I loved him more than life itself, that I would literally give him my life, that I would make myself his sustenance, his strength, his companion forever. And in that final moment, as he pulled the trigger, as the bullet entered his chest, as the pain hit and the blood flowed and his vision began to darken, Thomas thought one thing: I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. The thought repeated with each heartbeat, each beat weaker than the last, each repetition fainter, until finally the heart stopped, and the final thought, as consciousness faded: eat my heart, William, take it all, know it all, become us both. I am back in the cabin, gasping, crying, clutching the table edge to stay upright. Thomas's complete consciousness is inside me now. Not fragments, not pieces, all of him, his entire life, his entire self, everything he was. And I understand everything. Thomas did not die from despair, he died from love. Love so complete it could only be expressed through the ultimate gift. The gift of self, the gift of flesh, the gift of consciousness transferred through consumption. He wanted me to eat him because he wanted to remain with me, forever, inside me, part of me, literally merged with me in a way that transcends any other form of intimacy. And I realized something else, something that makes me weep harder. I am not alone in this cabin. Thomas is here, not as a memory, not as a ghost, but as an actual presence inside my mind. His consciousness has merged with mine through 5 years of consumption. We are one now. Two brothers become one being. I can feel him, can feel his thoughts mingling with mine, can feel his love radiating through every part of me. And I understand why he planned this, why he chose this impossible method. Because this is love, real love. The complete dissolution of boundaries between self and other, the becoming of one where there were two. Thomas loved me so much he literally gave me himself, and now we will never be apart. For the rest of my life he will be with me, inside me, part of me. I am William, and I am Thomas, and we are whole. Editor's note: this confession was discovered December 22nd, 1889, in a hunting cabin 40 miles north of Thornwood. William Thorne's body was found beside it. Heart failure, the authorities concluded, natural causes. But several details complicate this conclusion. The cabin's freezer contained preserved human tissue verified as belonging to Thomas Thorne, deceased 1884. William's autopsy revealed abnormalities. The heart was enlarged, not from disease but from apparent cellular growth, as though two hearts had attempted to occupy one space. The pathologist wrote, "The muscle tissue shows double layering. The cellular structure appears to be two distinct patterns merged into one organ, unprecedented and unexplainable." William's stomach contained recently consumed cardiac tissue. The teeth were unusually sharp. Canines and molars showed adaptive changes consistent with a carnivorous diet, though how teeth could alter structure in an adult is unknown. Most disturbing, William's journals showed handwriting that changed over 5 years. Early entries, 1884 to 1885, showed loose, casual script. Later entries, 1887 to 1889, showed progressively tighter, more controlled writing. By 1889, the script was nearly identical to Thomas Thorne's handwriting samples, as though Thomas had been writing in William's journal, or as though William had absorbed his brother's patterns so completely he unconsciously adopted them. One psychiatrist reviewing the case in 1923 wrote, "If memory transference through consumption were possible, and it is not, this would be the mechanism." But Thorne's delusion was so complete he rewrote his own neural pathways to match his brother's. The human mind's capacity for self-deception is infinite and terrifying. But one detail resists explanation. In 935, a man appeared in Thornwood claiming knowledge of the Thorne family no outsider could possess. Details about abuse, about the cabin, about private moments. He claimed to be Thomas's son, born 6 months after Thomas died. But Thomas had no known relationships, no children. The man left behind a letter, verified as Thomas's handwriting, written weeks before his death. "William, if you're reading this, I am inside you now. We are one. We are united. Death has not separated us. It has joined us. You carry me. You're me. We are us. Forever. Your brother, yourself, Thomas." The letter's postscript. Pay attention to your thoughts. Notice when ideas feel foreign, when choices feel like mine rather than yours. That is me. Still here, still with you, still loving you. We are not two anymore. We are one. Whether William read this letter is unknown. Whether the memory transference was real or delusion remains unanswerable. But something changed in William Thorne, something physical, something that left evidence in his altered body, his adapted teeth, his merged handwriting, his doubled heart. And if Thomas's plan worked, if consciousness truly transferred through consumption, then William Thorne did not die alone. He died with his brother inside him. Their minds merged, their love finally complete, their separation finally ended through the most intimate act imaginable. In Thornwood, there is a story that sometimes in winter, near the old cabin, people see two men walking together, brothers, one older, one younger, walking side by side, speaking quietly, and when approached they vanish, as though they exist in a space between, where love and death and consumption merged into something that persists through devotion alone. Something that requires no physical form because it has become pure union. The woods remember, even if we do not.